The hour of 6 o'clock is upon us, so I'd like to welcome you out to our regularly scheduled City Council meeting. It is Monday, August 5th. Glad to have you all here. This is our first Monday meeting. So we did recently make a change, moving City Council meetings from Tuesdays to Mondays to help to accommodate the Indian Creek Plaza. I see Danae is here from Destination Caldwell. So over there, we had the Farmers Market on Tuesdays, a very busy night in the downtown, and so we moved that over. And now, Danae, I guess you don't have an excuse to not be here, so here you are. So it's great to see you. But again, we are excited for this change. I think it'll be good for our community, for our downtown, for sure. So we will begin this meeting with an invocation offered by Chaplain Phil Whitbeck, and also want to thank him for his service with our Caldwell Fire Department as their chaplain. So thank you for all you do. So if the audience would please stand for that invocation, and then remain standing afterwards for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Almighty God, we thank you once again for this opportunity we have to gather in freedom in your name, and to have the opportunity to hear and decide what's best for our community, the very best that we can. We always pray for insight and guidance for these in charge. And this evening, Lord, we especially remember our first responders. We pray that your shelter of safety would always be upon them. Give them wisdom in fulfilling their duties. Thank you for this meeting tonight, Lord. We just ask that you would give us guidance by your Holy Spirit. We pray in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you again, Phil. Really appreciate you being here and for all that you do for our community and for our firefighters. Madam Clerk, if you please call the roll.
Doty?
Here.
Stodick?
Here.
Register? Here. Williams?
Here.
Allgood?
Here.
Dittenberg?
Here.
Good. All city council members are present and accounted for. Are there any declarations of conflict of interest from any members of council regarding any items on the agenda this evening? Okay. That moves us into our special presentation, and we just do have one this evening, a very special presentation. So special, in fact, we had to leave the participants outside, but I think we're going to go and visit them here shortly. So yes, Chief Ingram, the time is yours.
Mr. Mayor, Council, thank you very much. I'm going to make my remarks pretty short here. So when I first got sworn in a couple years ago, I had a vision to bring the Western equestrian heritage back to the state of Idaho. The Boise Police Department had a Boise Police Mounted Unit for a long time, and it was disbanded. One of the things that prevents agencies and police departments across the country from having an equestrian unit or a mounted unit is funding. So I thought to myself, what better opportunity than to try to create something here by creating a nonprofit, accepting donations, and having community members. Since we have the DMB here, we have the 100th anniversary for the rodeo here, we have all these great Western things happening in the city of Caldwell, then to really use our relationships with our community to showcase what our police department is doing out there for the community, and what better way than to have horses. So with generous donations, I'm sure you've seen on the news lately, the Albuquerque Police Department, some generous donors down in New Mexico have donated 2 large draft horses to the Caldwell Police Mounted Unit Foundation, which is basically the vehicle that accepts donations, so then they can let us use it for the deployment of these resources. So I want to swear in the horses. I want invite everyone to come out there and see them. They are humongous. They cannot walk in here. But I would also be remiss if I didn't give a shout out to Tom and Jan, which basically, just a quick rundown, is they saw a news article on us several months ago that Channel 6 did, so shout out to Channel 6. And they actually reached out to us because Miss Jan was the president of the Albuquerque Police Mounted Unit Foundation prior to her moving to Idaho. So they're Nampa residents. They reached out to Nampa about a year ago to see if they were interested in starting up a horse unit, and Nampa declined. So here we are. They're kind of the conduit to all the great things that you guys have been seeing in the last couple months with our horses. So the unit has been in existence for about a year now. I just hit a year and 1 month. I'm very, very proud of it. Very, very proud of them. Equestrian horses bring they're good for mental health, they're good for PTSD, they're good for kids, they're just good for the community, and we also use them to fight crime, and eventually that's the goal. So we're currently in the stages of training officers, training the horses, and, I'm not a cowboy, but I've learned to appreciate the West and what the West was founded on, and I just want to say thank you to our generous donors. DMB has been a huge partner for us, donating a lot of things. We have a gentleman in Vail, Oregon that's been donating all the hay, over 20 tons of hay a year he's donating to the foundation. So very, very grateful for that, and super appreciative, and I just want to invite you and the audience to go out there and check out what we have going on. So,
Very good. Before we do,
swear them in.
any questions from the council in regards? Yes, Councilor Stanek.
Yeah. Chief, are these the big draft horses they use in pulling, or?
Yes, sir.
They are?
Yeah.
Oh.
They're about 7, and they're 18 and 18 and a half hands tall, which is, for those of you guys who don't know, is huge. So Lonnie, you'll see Lonnie, he's the darker of the two horses. His withers, which is the top of his back, are actually taller than me, and I'm 6'2". So.
And this program be fully funded by donations then, is that correct?
So, there is some confusion on that. So, yeah, so the foundation accepts all the donations. So my vision was to not be able to come to you and say, hey, we want to have a program, and then you say, well, it's going to cost hundreds of thousands of dollars. Sorry, you can't do it, right? So our way to do that is we have a foundation that's set up that has board members that Jan and Tom are on there as well, and other community members. And basically, we have all the stuff donated, and then what the city of Caldwell and what the Caldwell Police Department is paying for is just like a K-9 deployment or just like a SWAT deployment, we're paying for the officers to get deployed in the field. So their time to actually deploy and train. As far as the equipment, the tack, the hay, the vet bills, the boarding, all that is covered by the nonprofit.
And the type of service that you plan on using the equestrians for, like Indian Creek Tuesday nights or what?
Yes, sir. So we've had them in both of the last 2 4th of July parades. I rode on my personal horse in that just to start the awareness. Caldwell Night Rodeo next week, the 100-year anniversary, they'll be there for that. And we do plan on having them every Tuesday at the plaza and then other major events, and then start putting them into high crime areas of our community to be kind of a force multiplier and just engage our community in a different way than we've been traditionally doing it.
Thank you.
Councilor Allgood.
Yeah, Chief, do you have access to people that have done this or know how to train our officers and train our horses? Or how are both the officers and the horses getting trained to do patrol properly on a horse?
It's a great question, sir. So in the state of Idaho, Post does not regulate mounted equestrian training as some other states do. So through our relationships and our team, we have multiple people that are either current or former mounted police officers and instructors. So just last Sunday, I went out to a location and I got trained on the Boken by an instructor that is certified to do that. So essentially, we're starting this for the entire state from the ground up. There's talks that Meridian wants to actually fund their entire program within their own city budget. We would never be able to do that here. But it's getting the ball rolling. We've used it at funerals for Tobin Bolter's funeral. People loved it. And so the equestrian community is pretty tight, but it's also very big. So we've had people like Jan and Tom that reached out to us when they saw it and said, hey, whatever we can do for you. Idaho Equine's a huge partner of ours. They're the biggest vet in Idaho. They're giving us annual checkups, free teeth floating for the unit. And so we're very grateful for that. There are a lot of instructors that live here that we use, and we're having training every weekend at actually one of our employees' houses that he's been boarding them. So
That's wonderful. I didn't realize we had that resource close to us.
yes, sir.
We're good. And we could so if Jan and Tom know that we have plenty of property still in Caldwell, if you want to relocate, we wouldn't blame you, so.
They're outside. I'm sorry, Mayor.
Oh, they
They're
outside?
outside.
Well, we can let them know later. No offense to Nampa, we love our neighbors to the east.
They have a phenomenal facility in Nampa, and it's really, really nice.
Perfect. Excellent. Well, I will read this, and then we will dismiss to go outside. So this is for City of Caldwell, presented to Mount Einstein and to Mount Lonnie. And it says, in recognition of their commitment to faithfully discharge their assigned duties within the Caldwell Police Department, serving the citizens of Caldwell in accordance with the City of Caldwell laws and ordinances and the Caldwell Police Department's guiding principles and policies. Signed, Mayor Jaron Wagner and Chief of Police Rex Ingram. So, Very good. Okay, then we will go ahead and head out to go check out the mounted unit's new horses, and then we'll reconvene shortly thereafter. We invite everybody to come and join us outside. Okay, we are all back and accounted for. So we'd like to recognize our police department again and taking the initiative to do that. Those are beautiful animals out there, and they will be a great asset to the community and to our police department. So thank you for taking that charge and doing that, moving forward in that direction. So again, that was our only special presentation. So now we do have audience participation. We do have a few people signed up, and a number of them I noticed are for parking meters. And just want to make sure everyone is aware, and we will allow you to speak still if you wish this evening. But we are having a special city council meeting on Monday, August 26th. At 6 p.m. That'll be specifically for parking meters. So we will take testimony at that time. We are doing extensive reach out to the community, to the neighboring businesses downtown. We are actually putting out instead of just the notice that's required in the paper, we're actually taking an ad out in the paper to make sure that everyone is aware of this. I know Steve Jenkins and Ophelia Morales from our Economic Development Department will be visiting, if they haven't already, all the businesses downtown, letting them know about that. So we will have that on Monday, August 26th. Specifically, it is a special city council meeting only for parking meters. So we will discuss all that, and all testimony of anybody that wishes to speak that evening will be taken at that time. So if you still do wish to speak tonight, you're more than welcome. In lieu of time, if you feel your questions or your statements could be best served at that meeting, we would encourage you to do that. But again, if you do wish to speak tonight, we'll still allow you that opportunity. But want to make sure everyone is aware we do have that special meeting scheduled on August 26th. So with that, we'll begin actually with, so Marta Rostock had signed up. Do you still wish to speak this evening, Marta?
Yes.
Okay. And if you could keep your comments to 3 minutes or less, please.
Debbie, it's all going to do it automatically? Oh, okay. My name is Marta Rostock, and it's just a little over 3 minutes. Dear Mayor and Caldwell City Council, 5 weeks ago I stood here and introduced myself, not because I'm anyone special, but because I was rather surprised that I knew so few of you. So I came again and observed your meeting July 16th, hoping to become more familiar with the process and the surroundings, and would feel a little less overwhelmed, knowing I would stand here again. There was a gentleman who came up here with the same desperation many others are feeling. Business owners and customers are struggling and becoming defensive. We are desperately trying to help reassure our angry and confused customers and support our business neighbors who are our friends. He tried to stay focused, but I could see he felt unheard, because it seems like some of you are trying to fix a problem from the outside looking in. Such a big decision with such a large expense, and the parking meters directly affecting so many of our downtown businesses, should have involved more inclusion and more direct communication for both the public and the businesses involved. All of you should have made the rounds several times before, getting to know us all, listening to our suggestions, concerns, and questions. I don't recall any of that. So the last time I was here, I was polite and professional as I entered a statement of how the initial 7 weeks of operation had felt. Well, it's been 5 more weeks, and today I am sad and even angry at the continuing losses we and our neighbors have endured. This isn't working for many of us. My store is located on the corner of Kimball and Blaine. These 2 streets are at the very last edge of where you place the meters on my block. My half of the block has them on both sides of my store. The other half on 9th and Cleveland still have the street signs stating 3-hour parking, 8 to 5, Monday through Friday. We never complained about parking, but you installed them here without our support, permission, or our best interest at heart, because you never talked to us. So I am here now on behalf of my entire block, including Continental Investors, Abracadabra Antiques, Genizio Restaurant, Red Light Photography, Wells Fargo Bank, Windermere Real Estate, Rostock Furniture, and I know we are not alone. Many others have absolutely no reason to have parking meters on their property either. Our entire block is requesting that you replace the parking meters on Blaine and Kimball with the same public parking signs you have on 9th and Cleveland. Of course, I can't say this attempt to control parking in downtown Caldwell has negatively affected every business, but it is destroying enough of us. No matter what side you are on, it is obvious that this is no longer a parking issue. It has become a parking meter issue. This has created a horrible division in our downtown business district. We now have anger, frustration, and confusion, and complete loss of character for our city. Nothing you say can make me believe that all this conflict, controversy, and expense was a better plan than hiring one or two people to police the signs that already existed. We would like to see the parking meters removed entirely, and we know that you have the authority to remove them from many areas. They simply do not belong. Please consider the possibility that this may be wrong for Caldwell at this time. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Appreciate that. Appreciate the information that you provided. Mr. Lombardo, and we would ask if you could please refrain from that, Mr. Lombardo, if you want to speak. And again, if you could keep your comments to 3 minutes.
3 minutes, I got it. Joe Lombardo, 615 Main Street. I appeared before you before regarding business loss. I just want to put down for the record, I keep hearing that it's for the parking, against the meters. It seems like one party or against the other. I receive phone calls wondering why I'm against the meters at my store. So I just want to remind people that when I arrived here in 2005, Urban Renewal, which is a downtown development, which is a taxation that's from the rooftops of citizens of Caldwell, paid for everything. We paid for the building that you're in, the creek that you see. We paid for the theater. We paid for the theater parking. We paid for the theater land. We paid for the apartment land. We gave the apartment $5 million cash. We gave them parking spots behind our building for 75 years. Everything you see that's dirt, the citizens paid for. So I don't understand how you came to the conclusion that we should tax our citizens to use their downtown that they paid for. That's all I got to say.
Thank you, Joe. Appreciate you being here. Bob Clark.
Bob Clark, 718 Main. You guys are familiar with me and my complaints. Just two things briefly. I still believe there's such a disconnect between you guys and the people who actually own businesses and work downtown Caldwell. Because I've counted over 25 people just like me, own businesses down here, who've been here and complained to you personally, face to face, that it's costing us money. Your ideas have cost us money. And since you don't have any skin in the game, none of you are losing money, so I think you're indifferent to it. You really don't care about the people who live here in Caldwell. So I'd like to see that changed, because it's unprecedented to have a city council supposed to be representing you and a mayor supposed to be on your side doing things that sabotage your business. If your goal is to make Caldwell downtown a ghost town, you're on the right track, because you're probably going to put everybody out of business down here. Secondly, I had a telephone solicitor. I don't know if you guys are paying for this, but some gal called me and wanted to know why I wasn't just thrilled with the parking meters. And I said, did the city put you up to calling me? And I said, no, I'm just calling around and talking to people because I love the parking meters. I've talked to people. And I said, well, you're the only person I've ever heard in downtown Caldwell who loves parking meters, and obviously you're totally out of touch. Why don't you go talk to the business owners who own businesses that are losing money and find out how they feel about parking meters, because they don't need to be here. Thank you very much.
Monique Contreras.
My name is Moni Contreras, 517 Main Street, and I will actually be talking in Spanish this time, saying the same thing that I've been saying. Yo soy Moni Contreras, estoy representando a Carnicería Mi Tierra. Estoy aquí porque mucha de la gente hispana no sabe usar los parking meters. Cuando ustedes primero nos dijeron de los parking meters, dijeron que iba a ser en español y en inglés, eso no es cierto. Yo estoy perdiendo mucho dinero, estoy perdiendo clientes que van a ir a comer 20 minutos, 2, 3 tacos. No se puede parquear porque no saben usar los parking meters. 2, los parking meters solamente están en inglés. 3, nadie va a pagar $1 para ir a meterse a agarrar 2 tacos, que les salen $3. Yo estoy aquí porque ustedes no dieron suficiente información a la comunidad hispana, a la comunidad de City de Caldwell. No dieron información sobre los parking meters. Ustedes nada más fueron y los pusieron. Ahora yo también estoy teniendo clientes que se están quejando conmigo diciendo que nosotros somos los que estamos cobrando ese $1, $2 por el parqueadero. Entonces, para mí se me hace injusto lo que están haciendo. No están dando información a la comunidad. Nos dejaron sin parqueaderos de atrás y de enfrente. Ahora mis clientes no se pueden parquear atrás porque esos parqueaderos se los dieron a los apartamentos por 75 años. No por 2 años, no por 3 años, 75 años. Esos parqueaderos, ¿por qué no los dan a nosotros por 3 horas gratis como se los dan a Indian Creek? ¿Por qué siempre a nosotros nos tienen que dejar aparte? ¿Será porque somos hispanos? ¿Es porque es un negocio hispano y a lo mejor a muchos de ustedes no les importa y les importa más un negocio que es americano? No sé, pero yo estoy aquí para representar a la gente hispana que no sabe de lo que está pasando en la ciudad, que no entiende el inglés y entiende el lenguaje, y es todo.
Okay, gracias. Mr. Porter, our last one signed up. And again, 3 minutes or less, please.
May I take an offering at the end? No. First, I do have an opinion about parking, but that's not why I'm here. And I would like to thank you all for your hard work. I know the amount of hours that you put in before every meeting, studying, considering the things before you, and I just want you to know that I understand that, I get it, and I want to thank you for your service. At a recent council meeting, there was a move not to reappoint a member of the Urban Renewal Committee. And I believe it was done using the wrong criteria. And the criteria used to remove this person from the Urban Renewal Committee was their zip code. It wasn't for their lack of knowledge or lack of experience. It was not for their unlawfulness or misappropriation or anything like that. It wasn't for their unwillingness to be a team player. It wasn't because they didn't have a lifetime of engagement in the city. It was their zip code. Mr. Garcia is a lifetime resident of Caldwell who moved out of the area about 2 years ago because he couldn't find the kind of housing he was looking for in the Caldwell area. And that, by decision, has disqualified him. Comment was made that people that are spending millions of dollars on behalf of the taxpayers of this people of Caldwell should be living in the community that they represent. A couple of years ago, I would have felt the same way. But looking at it from a different position, Mr. Garcia's vote is one of 7 people on that team. He does not cast a lone vote that makes a decision. And the comment was made that we want $1 million decisions held within the hands of people that live and work in Caldwell. I understand that too. However, in Mr. Garcia, we have a gentleman who right now is working on a project with St. Luke's in downtown Boise that comes in at $1.2 billion. That's the kind of wisdom and knowledge and expertise that I would like to have working on our behalf. Adam has strong ties to our community. He's a wonderful man. He's a man of character. At the same time, we have a lot of appointed officials working in the city of Caldwell that do spend taxpayer money that don't live in this zip code. Mr. Garcia served as a volunteer, very capable volunteer. What we have done, using a sports analogy, is we have benched, well, no, we've cut Michael Jordan. That's the kind of reputation Adam has in the Idaho development community, and a great asset on our team. And when we disqualify people with such an experience and such a vast knowledge of the ins and outs of the development community, when we eliminate them because of their zip code, I think that does a disservice to the people of our city, the people that we are striving so hard to serve. The zip code should not be an eliminating factor for those who are willing and able and capable of serving. And I think his non-reappointment was unwise, and it was a mistake. Nonetheless, as I began, I thank you. Really, I thank you for your service. I know what it costs, I know what it takes, and I appreciate you.
Thank you, Mr. Porter, appreciate that. Okay, that is all that had signed up on our audience participation, so that'll move us into an updated report from Mr. McDonald, our Public Works Director. If you remember, I don't know if it was the last city council meeting, one before, we had a number of people from the Golden Gate Irrigation District that had come voicing their concerns about no water for the last several years on some of them, and if there's anything the city could do, because obviously these are city taxpayers. We do not control their irrigation. It's a separate irrigation district than the cities. However, we did want to look into that and find out some information, see if there's anything that we can do to offer our help. So we appreciate Mr. McDonald reaching out to Golden Gate Irrigation, getting some information on that. We do not have all the answers tonight, but we do have some information for the council and to see kind of directions to move forward from there. So Mr. McDonald, with that, the time is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and council. I appreciate this opportunity to report back after our meeting on the 16th of July. This is a report back on the Golden Gate Irrigation District and a lot of the testimony that we received during that meeting. Just a brief history. The Golden Gate area, okay, so we do have it up there. I outlined the Golden Gate area on this map just so it's clear what the district looks like. It's about 354 acres roughly, and it serves 852 addresses, and that may not be exactly correct, but that was the best information I could get in the time frame. The Golden Gate District has a water right that's dated in 1908 that is supposed to be pulling water out of the Boise River. After reviewing that a little bit, it's clear that that's not the case. It's actually pulling water out of Indian Creek, and many decades back, that got changed from the Boise River to Indian Creek, and we're not really sure how that happened, or if that's even where the water's supposed to be coming from. I've talked to city staff. We actually have a representative from our water department here who's been with the city for quite a while, and they've confirmed that the city has been very minorly involved over the years in making some corrections to some areas where there's been leaks. Now, this has not been the city's responsibility, but the city street department has helped on some of the crossings in the past, but that has been very few and far between. It is typically not our practice to get involved with anything that is not the city's, because as soon as we touch it, then we become liable for anything that could go wrong in the future. And so we try to not do that. But it has happened in the past. There was also a point in time, a decade or more ago, maybe 15 years ago, where Pioneer Irrigation District, which is a much larger irrigation district, was evaluating Golden Gate and considering annexing Golden Gate into their irrigation district. And as I understand it, once they had reviewed the system and the condition the system was in, they didn't want to have anything to do with it. And so it's no surprise that the system is having problems now. It appears to always have had problems from the information that I'm gathering, but this is the first time it's come to the city where they've been asking the city for significant help. I will also note it hasn't been, it's been the patrons that have come to the city. It hasn't been the board members at this point or ditch rider. The mayor had alluded that we had been talking to the district. That is actually not correct. We have tried to get in touch with what we think are 2 remaining board members and have not heard back. Our legal department has tried to reach out to their legal department and I believe has not heard back to date. So we have not received any information back. The only contact we have made was with the ditch rider, and that was Mr. Martin made contact with the ditch rider, but he was not volunteering much information. So where we are at now and how do we move forward in this situation? The irrigation district is not any responsibility of the cities. I just want to make sure that's clear, and I think everybody understands that. So option 1 would be that the city does not intervene. The patrons have the right to file litigation or suit against the irrigation district to try to recover costs or try to find out what went wrong with the district. The patrons, I believe, have the ability to not re-elect those board members, elect different board members, or volunteer to be board members. I think there are some things there that may be options. If the board was having trouble, and just to be clear, I haven't looked at any of the numbers. I have no idea what their financial situation is. But my gut tells me if the board has been having trouble keeping up with the maintenance, maybe it was the board's duty then to raise fees so that they would have the funding necessary to keep up with the improvements that needed to be done. There are other, the state code has a lot of sections regarding irrigation, and a lot of those sections are very old and not familiar to most citizens. In section 42-907, there's a section that talks about responsibility of property owners to create their own distribution laterals if there are more than two or more property owners pulling water from a delivery point from an irrigation district. And what is not clear to me is if that is the responsibility, in this case, of the property owners, or if the Golden Gate Irrigation District had been established to maintain all of those sections through the properties. And so there's quite a bit more due diligence and research that we could do if council decides that they want staff to spend the time doing that. But I'm just pointing out some of the things that have come to light. And that code section, I appreciate Councilman Dittenberg for bringing that up and pointing that out to us. So moving forward, the option number 1 is to not intervene, the city to not intervene. Option number 2 is to intervene, I guess, with some very tactical improvements. And what that would mean is that we would expect that the board to be operational and functional, the board to do their due diligence on what the system needs, and then at that point they could come and request action from the city if there were specific locations that they didn't have the capability of making repairs to. That could include pipe replacement, crossings, road crossings, possibly jetting and cleaning pipe, and maybe even cammering pipe to find out where there's issues. A third option would be for the city to create a local improvement district, and this would be a district that would encompass that entire area. This would likely, this could be a volunteer irrigation district if 60% or more of the patrons wanted it. If they don't reach that threshold of 60%, then it's something that city council could still force, even if none of them wanted it. That would initiate the process of city staff hiring a consultant to do a full pressure irrigation design for that entire area. And then that would also initiate the process of hiring a contractor to go out and build it. Now, a process like that would take several years. It could even take up to 10 years. It's a big process. We're talking about nearly 10 miles of pipeline, probably, several pump stations, and then also a cost that could be somewhere in the ballpark of $7 million, I predict, or possibly more or less, depending on the time frame. The LID then would be, that cost would be split over all the property owners, and they would be paying off their portion over 10 years, like the LID is currently established. Option number 4 would be possibly creating an urban renewal allocation area. And this is a little bit different in that instead of the property owners paying the extra fee, like in an LID, to pay off the cost for, I'm sorry, there's a fly that's flying around my head. Instead of the property owners paying the fee out of their own pocket, it would be basically on any increase of their property value over those 10 years would go back to offset the irrigation system. And we would have to analyze that pretty thoroughly to see if something like that even pencils out or if that would even work. But these were just some of the options that came up. In my opinion, Council and Mayor, the best option would be for the city to encourage the board to get reestablished to whatever extent it's not established now. Try to assess their situation, try to assess their finances, and figure out if they need to start increasing fees. And then at that point, if they can identify areas where they significantly need help that they are not capable of doing in the immediate future, maybe the city would then step in if they came and made that request. Otherwise, I think the burden, would be on that board to get the fees where they need the fees to be so they can hire the manpower to be able to do the work that needs to be done. It's a very difficult situation. These are all city citizens, I think completely city, no county. And so it's a tough situation that it's put us in. But it's no different than Highway District 4 deciding not to maintain all of their roads outside of the city limits, even though there may be some city residents that have utilities, or even some city annex areas, and then asking the city to take on that burden. It's not sustainable. The city is not staffed to be able to go and start looking at all this, and there would be quite a mountain of work that would need to be done. But we're here to try to solve problems, and so I just want to present that to you and let City Council let you think about that, and I'm happy to answer any questions that I may be able to answer.
Any questions? Councilor Stoddard.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Rob, last time the folks were here, I asked if they ever received a profit and loss statement or a balance sheet, and they said they've never received one, so that puts up a red flag for me. I'm not accusing them of fraud or anything, but the irrigation district, where in the world did all the money go that they've been paying into this? And I don't know who's going to check that out, but my goodness, it went someplace, so.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, Councilman Stoddard, I don't know if that's typical for them to send something like that out. When I never received anything from Pioneer Irrigation District to that effect when I was on Pioneer Water, and so I don't know if they normally send those out, but they're, at this point, it would all be public record, and any citizen should be able to go do a public record search and dig up all of that information they want to look at.
Are they under HOA right now, do you know?
I'm not aware of any HOA within this boundary district, but I could be incorrect on that.
Okay.
This is an older part of town before
Yep.
they established HOAs typically.
Thank you.
Councilor Allgood.
Yeah, Mr. McDonald, we have a number of people in the room here that haven't had water for years. Do we have any idea if this irrigation is delivering water to anybody? Do you know?
It's my understanding, Councilman Allgood, that some individuals are getting water. We have some city staff that live over in that area, and at least one that I'm aware of that is getting water, but there may be large portions that are not. I don't know to the extent that who's getting water and who's not. We don't have that kind of analysis or understanding exactly.
But they are drawing water apparently out of the creek or wherever they're authorized to do that?
They are drawing water, yes. I don't know that they're drawing it from an authorized location because it's coming out of Indian Creek. This would definitely require a little bit more research. The water that they're drawing is in a canal that runs right through the Rose Garden. So it's not the Notice Canal up on the hill, but there's a smaller canal, and I've seen water flowing in that canal recently within the last month. And so some water is getting somewhere. I just don't know who's getting what.
Thank you.
Councilor Doty.
Just in addition, we're also going to need Golden Gate's cooperation, right? That doesn't mean they have to stop billing the residents either, even if we step in and help them out. So I think it is a much more larger issue for litigation, and I understand that that's expensive and tough, and that they're in a tough situation, but unfortunately, Golden Gate also still has rights, meaning we can't just go in and start replacing their pipes and things without their cooperation. And I think we're at a tough spot where they won't even cooperate or answer some of the questions from their own residents, so.
Councilor Williams?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. McDonald, thank you. Sounds like you spent a lot of time on this. I'm sure you had a lot of extra time to spend on this. But first blush, I concur with your analysis, and my first and best hope is that we find a way to get Golden Gate moving again and responsible to do what they need to do for their irrigation district. You're right, if we just step in and take over, we put ourselves in a terrible situation potentially with any other function of the city that is outside of our jurisdiction and us just going in there. But I do think that it would be wise for us to further spend your valuable time to get some more answers to some of these very important questions, like where are they drawing the water from? That was the first major concern to me tonight that you brought up, but I think we should continue to pursue this. Let's continue to press Golden Gate to be responsible, to do what they need to do, and then take whatever measures we need to or possibly can to put that pressure on them. Beyond that, I liked your idea of an LID. That was coming to my mind before you even brought it up, but unfortunately, it would be upon those residents to help us meet their needs if it ever came to that.
Yeah, and if I just could add to that, Mr. Mayor, Councilman Williams, there are other parts of the city that have gravity irrigation, and it's very old, and we have problems, all that whole area down near Linden, Montana, Indiana. There's a lot of areas down there, and so at some point, it is the city's desire to ultimately put gravity or eliminate the gravity irrigation and get pressure irrigation in all of those areas. But it's extremely difficult, it's extremely expensive, and so you have to break it off pieces at a time. If the residents in this area decided they wanted to do the LID and they all got together, then that's a mechanism that we could use. But if they don't want to do it, then it's a little harder, I think, for council to want to step in and force it if they're not willing to, to bear the cost of that. But there's other areas in the city as well that we're always looking at, and someday we're going to have to try to get all of these areas converted.
Councilor Register?
I don't have any questions, but I just thank you for helping them. I think when they came to the meeting, the time that they did, they all seemed so desperate and like nobody was helping them. So I just wanted to say that I appreciate your help, and hopefully they feel like they have at least some choices now, or at least somebody that's trying to figure it out for them.
Yeah, thank you for that. I apologize, to the patrons. I feel like I'm not helping a whole lot, but we will certainly continue to try to reach out to the irrigation district and see if we can work with them somehow to try to get things moving in a positive direction.
Well, and I think that you had an option, or the city had an option to say they weren't going to get involved at all. So I think that just getting involved and starting some of those phone calls and hopefully giving them a person to talk to and explain some of this stuff is going to help long-term. So I appreciate that.
Councilor Stoddard?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, just one more question. Who would spearhead the effort to get those folks together and have them talk about what they want to do?
Councilman Stoddard, are you referring to the irrigation board?
Well, no, the folks that might have to pay for this.
Oh.
The residents themselves. I mean, I guess I don't
That's a good
expect
question.
us to do that, but
I mean, normally with an LID, the city would take that lead. So it
Okay.
would be the engineering department. We have Jacob Witucky in the engineering department is over our LID program. And this would be a massive undertaking, but that's generally where it would fall. And then we would hold town hall meetings, or not town hall meetings, but community meetings where we could reach out and invite everybody in the area to come and explain what something like that would look like.
okay, thank you.
Councilor Dimber?
Mr. Mayor, Mr. McDonald, so let's suppose there is an LID at 7 million, 10 million, or whatever, and the city goes in and replaces all the pipe. Would the city then own that pipe and own that canal system, or would that be something that would be turned right back over to the irrigation district to let dilapidate and get in the same condition down the road?
Mr. Mayor, Councilman Dittenberg, that is a very good question. We would not replace the gravity irrigation system. It would all be pressure irrigation, and at that point, the entire area would be annexed into Caldwell Municipal Irrigation District. So the city would operate and maintain all the main lines and the pump stations, just like they do with any new subdivision.
Okay, very good. Thank you so much for that detailed report. Really do appreciate it and the time and effort you and your staff spent to keep us abreast of what's going on out there. So we'll continue to investigate it, see what we can do, and working with, I think there are a few people here that are affected by that, so hopefully, I know it's not all the answers, but it's a start, for sure. And so I know that you appreciate Mr. McDonald as well and all that work and effort for him, and again, his entire team. I see Ashley's here and Bruce, so thank you for everything that you've done. Mr. Waterman, did you have a quick comment?
I did, Mayor and Council, just to add on to what Mr. McDonald said. Just for some clarity, in terms of generating revenue to do substantial repairs, the district itself has the authority to do that through a special assessment. And I had a productive conversation with Pioneer's attorney, Andy Waldera, who's an excellent resource on this kind of thing over at Sawtooth Law. But the district itself has the ability to do a special levy to raise one-off funds for a repair like this. So there is an avenue by which the district either could repair its own system and continue to be at gravity fed, or potentially to repair its own system and talk with Pioneer about continuing to be gravity fed, but have that maintained by Pioneer. And I think there would, if the system was in better condition, there would potentially be some appetite for that based upon the age of the water right and the volume of it. It is true that it's currently not coming from its the point it's supposed to come from is coming from within Pioneer's system. But anyway, so to the question of who would spearhead that, the district does have resources in its toolbox toolkit to go about that assessment itself. One of the things, as I understand it, that is different is I believe that special assessment is a 1 year only, which would collapse all of those costs to do that improvement to a single year, and so it might be essentially cost prohibitive. But there's also nothing prohibiting the city from using its LID authority with strings attached to avoid some of the concerns that were expressed about having the system just go back to its, to falling apart again. So just wanted to add some extra information.
Okay, thank you so much. Appreciate that. So again, that was our update report. Appreciate that. So that moves us into our consent calendar, and I know we have a couple of amendments to that consent calendar.
Mr. Mayor.
Councilor Doty.
There is a request to move item 12 to new business for further discussion, but I think that it would be better to move that or postpone that until a date certain 2 weeks at the next city council meeting. So do you want me to first move it to the consent calendar and then we talk about it there, or the motion would be to postpone it or delay it until the next city council meeting?
Probably we need to do the two-step process, remove it first from the consent calendar so we can talk about it, and then have that motion to continue. Would that be correct, Mr. Waterman?
Okay. So the motion will be to move item number 12 to new business for further discussion and remove, looks like item number 20 as requested by staff from the consent calendar.
Okay, so we have a motion for amendment of the consent calendar, moving item number 12 to new business, and then removal of item number 20, which is in regards to a ABC, or alcohol beverage license for Paris Restaurant, to remove that at this time to come forward in the future. So do we have a second to that motion?
Second.
So a motion from Councilor Doty, a second from Councilor Stoddick. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion passes. So now we have the amended consent calendar before council for your discretion. Councilor Allgood.
I move that the amended consent calendar be approved.
Good, and a second? Motion for Councilor Allgood and a second from Councilor Williams for approval of the amended consent calendar. Any discussion on that motion? With that, the voting is open at this time. And all votes are cast, the voting is closed, and that passes and approves the consent calendar as amended. So we now move into old business. So we do have one item of old business that was continued. Councilor Williams, I know, had some questions on this. I believe he's been able to work with Mr. Mills in regards to that. So we have Bruce here for just a quick overview of that, and then any discussion from council.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Council. Yes, this item was presented on July 16th, and there was a request to have it tabled for some more time to review it. As you recall, this is to repeal and replace our access management policy, which is about 25 years old. Based on the feedback that I received, I took the suggestion and added one subsection to Principles of Access Management. It's in the memo, but what it reads is that basically it's to assure that the city's power to be able to make decisions on that is more clear in the policy. So what the new subsection says is promote the maximum accessibility of properties while recognizing the city's right to restrict access, control traffic flow, and assure safe conditions, utilizing such items as traffic control devices, lane configurations, and changes to access locations. So unless you want another presentation, I
think we're
stand
good.
stand for questions.
Very good. Councilor Williams.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Mills, thank you again, and I want to make sure everybody knows, with your help, with council's help, with some help from a retired ITD professional looking at this, we came up with some of this, including that amendment, which I think is very important and helpful and good to know. And the only other thing I wanted council to be aware of that was part of our discussion was your table 13.1. We talked about that, and I said that was difficult to understand, that a layperson probably wouldn't understand this. And I think essentially the idea is the engineers that do this stuff would understand this, but that this isn't really written for the average individual to be able to interpret this table. So if I'm not misunderstanding you, those were my two questions, and I appreciate your help in helping. That was redundant, but thank you, Mr. Mills, for getting us through this.
You're welcome.
Very good. Any other questions? Okay, very good. Thank you so much. Appreciate that. Do we have any motions?
Mr. Mayor.
Or just a motion to approve will work? Yeah. Okay, Rick, we have a motion for approval. Do we have a second?
Second.
Very good. So yes, it can be as simple as that. So we have a motion for approval from Councilor Williams with a second from Councilor Doty. Any discussion on that motion? Okay, with that, do we have it? There it comes. So, okay. With that, the voting is open at this time. All votes are cast, so voting is closed, and that motion does pass unanimously. And thank you again, Councilor Williams. A special thank you out to Bruce Mills. I know a lot of times we give our friends at the legislature a hard time. We have one still in our midst, but I think we need to also recognize the good things that they do. And one good thing they did was pass some legislation that allows an individual like Mr. Mills to come and work for the city. So he did retire with Percy from ACHD and otherwise would not have been able to come and work for the city of Caldwell, but due to some legislation that was passed a few years ago, gives him the ability to come out of retirement without affecting his retirement on that. And so thank you to the legislature for that legislation, because Mr. Mills is extremely qualified in what he does and what the asset that he is and what he brings to the city. So thank you, Mr. Mills, and thank you to our legislature, even though I know you're not listening, but we did give you some kudos, so don't say we never said anything nice about you. Okay, that moves us into new business. As mentioned, we do have one item that was removed. So this is item number 12, and it sounds like there's also discussion for that to remove it completely. That if there's discussion on that or motion for that, now would be the time. Councilor Doty.
Mr. Mayor, just because of its short notice and some of the emails that I think we've all received from folks at the airport, I think it would best serve us if we do move it at least to the next city council meeting, so that anyone on vacation or that already had plans, this would give them the opportunity to come speak at the meeting in a couple of weeks.
Very good. Councilor Register.
I agree. That's what I was going to second. If that was a motion, I was seconding.
So, and then just to specify that, so that'd be moving to August 19th, correct?
I think that's the date, right, Ms. Geyer? Yes, August 19th.
Okay, so we have a motion and a motion from Councilor Doty and a second from Councilor Register to continue this item to August 19th at our next regularly scheduled city council meeting. Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Yeah, motion passes. That moves us into new business. Our first action item on new business is acceptance of the FY 2025 tentative budget and set the public hearing date for Tuesday, August 20th, 2024 at 6 p.m. Raylyn?
So this is just to set the public hearing date. It is a different night. Might help if I have it on. It is a different night than normal city council. It is on the Tuesday, August 20th, so at 6. So it is a special meeting.
Very good. Do you mind just giving a quick explanation why we have to do it that night instead of Monday?
So budget hearing dates are set early August or early April. And so if we were to change it, we would not be able to levy any property taxes. So that is set, mailed out on all tax assessment notices. And so that is a date we need to keep.
So pretty much it's set in stone, kind of like the Ten Commandments, so. Okay, any questions for Raylyn? Okay, we're good. Again, this is just setting the date for that. It's not approving the budget. This is just setting the date again of Tuesday, August 20th at 6 p.m. For the approval of the final budget at that time. Do we have a motion in that regards? Council, and a second? Or do you have discussion? Did you have discussion, Councilor Dittenber?
Just turn my light on.
Oh, so we had a motion from Councilor Williams.
Second.
And a second from Councilor Dittenber. Any discussion on that motion? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion passes. That moves us into action item number 2. This is a public hearing for the purpose of receiving public comments on the Community Development Block Grant 2024 Annual Action Plan. Dominique, the time is yours.
Good evening, Council and Mayor Wagner. As we prepare to submit our HUD Community Development Block Grant Annual Action Plan, I'm here to accept any final public comments tonight during the public hearing. Just a quick overview, since I already did present on July 16th. This is it's our one-year strategic plan outlining the use of CDBG funding. The plan is focusing on meeting the housing and community development needs of low to moderate income and special needs households. Our 3 main goals of the 2024 action plan is 1, to improve access to affordable housing, 2, rapid rehousing and homelessness prevention, and 3, helping improve safety and livability in our neighborhoods. These objectives concentrate on providing support to our most vulnerable residents, those who lack affordable housing and are at risk of homelessness and tend to spend a disproportionate amount of money on housing expenses. Just as a reminder, the allocation of funding for program year 2024 is in the amount of $439,577. I'd welcome any questions from council members prior to vote. And that's it.
Very good. Any questions? Okay, doesn't look like it. Thank you so much. Appreciate that. As noted, this is a public hearing item. However, there is nobody here that is signed up to speak on this matter. So with that, I would stand for a motion to close this public hearing item.
So moved.
Or close the public testimony portion of this.
Second.
So we have a motion from Councilor Stanek and a second from Councilor Doty to close the public testimony portion of this hearing. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion passes. So with that, this proposal is before the council. Again, staff is here if you do have questions for them. But again, this is for approval of the Community Development Block Grant 2024 Annual Action Plan.
Mr. Mayor,
Councilor Doty.
move to approve the resolution as presented, authorizing the submittal of the CDBG 2024 action plan to the Department of Housing and Urban Development.
Very good. Do we have a second?
Second.
Motion from Councilor Doty and a second from Councilor Stanek for approval of the 2024 Annual Action Plan for CDBG. Any discussion on that motion? With that, the voting is open. And all votes are cast. The voting is closed, and that passes unanimously. Does that cover number 3 also, or is that separate? Right? Okay, that's what I thought. So I just want to make sure. So that was it. Okay, so that moves us into action on number 4. Consider Bill 56, Ordinance 3617, regarding amendments to the city code. And this is pertaining to the appointment of appointed officials with request to move for its passage. An update of one that we did missed, not have in there, and then also the addition of the one that's been discussed by council regarding the Parks and Recreation Director.
Mayor and Council, the mayor already covered my presentation, but anyway, this is a simple code amendment to add Director of Finance to the list of appointed officials, to remove the deputy clerks from that, and to include now the Parks and Recreation Director as well. So that will be the consequence of it. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them, but pretty straightforward.
Very good. Any questions from council? Okay, there's not. Thank you so much, Doug. Appreciate that. Okay, so again, this ordinance bill is pretty simple, just updating the appointments of who is appointed. Director of Finance was not in there, even though it is discussed later on, so that's being added. Then also removing the Deputy City Clerk and adding the Parks and Recreation Director to that list. So with that, do we have any motions? Councilor Doty.
Sorry, just real quick. So that means, I mean, obviously, I just want to be sure that the Parks and Recreation Director will be an appointed position by council?
That is correct.
Okay. Thank you.
Very good. Councilor Doty?
Mr. Mayor, I move to approve the passage of Bill 56, Ordinance 3617.
Very good. Do we have a second? So we have a motion from Councilor Doty and a second from Councilor Register for passage of ordinance, or bill number 56, ordinance 3617, moving for its passage. Any discussion on that motion? Okay, with that, the voting is open. And all votes are cast, so voting is closed, and that passes unanimously. And just a quick update on that for the council. So that is currently open, the Parks and Recreation Director. We have received a number of applications. We'll be reviewing those shortly. And as you mentioned, in order for that hire to take place, it will have to come to council for their final approval, as it is now an appointed position. So we'll ensure working on an interview panel put together that'll consist of at least one, if not two, city council members to be on there, along with our HR director. Perhaps the city clerk, if she's so willing, is another one that we thought it would be good to be on there, and perhaps our public works director, unless he's sleeping over there. But anyway, and then again, so that would come before you for your final decision on that, a recommendation from the mayor to the council. So we will move forward in that direction. So thank you so much, Doug. Appreciate that. Okay, and I'm guessing you're standing there for the next one. Action item number 5, Bill 60, Ordinance 3621. Again, this is city code regarding revocation of licenses and permits with a request to move for its passage. Doug.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. So the city code has various licenses and permits that are granted to individuals to operate in the city of Caldwell, but there was no catch-all revocation language, and so the code amendment adds a catch-all revocation. And then significantly, when the city grants somebody a right to do a thing, that's a property interest, and to deprive that person of that property interest, you have to have notice and opportunity to be heard. And so it provides a timeline on notification of potential revocation or suspension or repeal, and then an opportunity to respond and the opportunity to come before council. So for example, if I was had a peddler's permit and there was cause to believe that I was not qualified to do that, which would be well justified, the city clerk could send me a notice, and if I disagreed, I would object, and then I come here before you and articulate why I think I should be permitted to peddle. And if you thought that I should, then I could continue doing so, and if you felt that the revocation was appropriate, then that would become effective at that point. So, like I said, it provides the catch-all and makes sure that people's property interests are protected during that process.
Thank you so much. Any questions? Councilor Williams?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just want to take advantage of this window being opened. I don't really have a question for what you're doing, but I want to clarify, if anybody's watching online, we have a particular problem in the community with those peddlers. And it states clearly within the code that when they knock on your door to solicit, they must have their license with them on their person. Am I misunderstanding that?
Councilor Williams, I haven't looked at that particular portion of the code. I'm
sorry, I didn't mean to throw you off,
but
Mr. Waterman, but I think I heard Madam Clerk over there.
Councilor Williams, that is correct. They must have a license, and to do door-to-door peddling, it also requires an FBI background check.
Okay, and so I just want anybody listening to know that there is now a process in our code whereby if someone is knocking on your door and you ask them to show you their license, they have to be able to present it. And if they don't, just take out your cell phone, because everybody has it, snap their picture, and then let us know, and then we can follow up with making sure they understand that code. But this has been an ongoing issue for a lot of residents that are really nuisanced by these peddlers. And so, again, sorry to take your time, Mr. Waterman, but this, I thought, was a good opportunity to mention that now that we have a way to revoke that license.
And Mayor and Councilman Williams, there may be instances where that's occurring, where somebody has a license, and revocation would be a sufficient sort of penalty for that behavior. There may also be instances where people do not have a license. I don't recall the specific escalation, but I believe the code has an infraction to misdemeanor penalty escalation that would apply there as well. And so the former, or the latter, was already covered. It's more of an enforcement issue. This presents for people who are attempting to comply with the code a penalty for deviating from that compliance. So that would apply to things like having, not knocking if there's no solicitor sign, things like that. So.
Councilor Allgood?
It's interesting that Councilor Williams brought that up because it happened to me today. Even though I have a sign on my door that says "Go away," it still happened to me today. Today, before we enact this ordinance, what is our process if we have someone that's abusing a license? Do we have a process in place now, the way we're doing it?
So again, I have to go look at the specific peddler. I think there is a revocation procedure for peddlers specifically. This is a catch-all for, there are licenses for private security, and I can't recall the others, but there is if you have someone who comes and peddles and they are violating the law at your door, either because they don't have a license or they're failing to comply with the signage, or they don't have their permit with them, there already is a process in place for having that revoked. As was suggested, take a picture and report that to the city clerk, and she's got the paperwork to get that ball rolling.
Mr. Mayor, if I could
Yes.
interject. So this license that was mentioned, there are several that are kind of falls under this that we really did not have details for. So we have a tree contractor's license, we have a security license, we have door-to-door, we have peddlers. All of those needed specific, just like the liquor, beer, wine application license has a definite criteria for revoking. We wanted to make sure that we were catching everything under. Pawnbrokers is another one. So all of those now would fall under this kind of a general blanket, so that we do have something in process for revoking licenses. Those that do have a license. If they don't, if they're going door to door without a license, we have another procedure as well as for reporting those through our Caldwell Police Department.
Okay, very good. Any other questions? Okay, any motions?
Mr. Mayor,
Councilor Allgood?
I would move that we approve this update in our license process.
Second.
Very good. So we have a motion for the adoption of bill number 60, ordinance number 3621, moving for its passage by Councilor Allgood with a second from Councilor Dittenber. Any discussion on that motion? With that, voting is open at this time. All votes are cast, voting is closed, and that passes unanimously. And that moves us into action item number 6, another bill and ordinance. So this is one of those housekeeping items for the annexation of Topaz Ranch subdivision into the Caldwell Municipal Irrigation District. Do we have a sponsor of this bill and ordinance?
Mr. Mayor,
Councilor Allgood.
I'll sponsor bill number 61, ordinance number 3622, and move for its passage.
Very good. Do we have a second? Second. Motion from Councilor Allgood and a second from Councilor Doty for adoption of bill number 61, ordinance number 3622. Any discussion on that motion? Okay, with that, voting is open. One to go. There it goes. All votes are cast, voting is closed, and that passes unanimously as well. That moves us into action item number 7. This is, again, another bill and ordinance. This is Bill 62, Ordinance 3623, regarding amendments to the Caldwell City Code, Chapter 13, Article 3, adding Section 13310 pertaining to public infrastructure. Haley, it's all you.
Mr. Mayor, council members, the engineering department is proposing to add this code because currently when we dedicate our water, sewer, streets, all of our public infrastructure, we are requiring as part of that dedication a 1-year warranty from the contractor and the developer for this infrastructure. However, it was brought up in a council hearing to change this from 1 year to 2 years. Once we dug into that, we realized that there is nowhere in our code that actually solidifies that 1 year is required, and so in order to change this dedication from 1 year to 2 year, we had to write it into our code to actually have a 2-year dedication warranty period.
Very good. Any questions? Sounds like a good thing we got that, so, okay, very good, awesome, thank you so much, Haley, appreciate that. Okay, so do we have a sponsor of this bill and ordinance for this addition to, again, that is Article 130310 within our city code?
Mr. Mayor,
Councilor Dittenber.
I'll sponsor Bill number 62, ordinance number 3623, regarding amendments to the city code.
Do we have a second?
Second.
That's the sponsor motion from Councilor Dittenber, the second from Councilor Allgood for adoption of Bill 61, ordinance, Bill 62, ordinance 3623 for the addition of section 13310 to Caldwell City Code. Any discussion on that motion? Okay, with that, the voting is now open. All votes are cast, the voting is closed, and that motion passes unanimously as well. Okay, and that moves us into our final action item of the evening. This is the finance report. Councilor Allgood.
Mr. Mayor, I move that accounts payable in the amount of $11,514,551.78, represented by check numbers 179461 through 179932, and payroll in the amount of $737,197.27, represented by check numbers 39519 through 39544, and direct deposits be accepted and payments approved, and vouchers filed in the office of the city clerk.
Very good. Do we have a second? So it's a motion from Councilor Allgood and a second from Councilor Register for acceptance of the finance report. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? That motion passes. So that moves us into council comments. Councilor Doty.
Mr. Mayor, do we have any update on the amphitheater, either moving it to a different location or any movement from the group, I guess, that's associated with the amphitheater?
So I know that there's been discussion that's taken place. Steve Jenkins, I was looking to see if he was here in the room. He is not. But I know that he, I think, was it just yesterday that he had some discussion with the Lexor company? Do you remember, Mr. McDonald?
It was very recent. It might have been yesterday.
Might have been yesterday, just within the last few days. So they're still looking at that. There's some questions they're looking into. There was that additional property, so there's some research going on with that. We've reached out to I don't think he was their attorney, but he was a member of, was it the Pathway and Bikes Committee at that time? Whatever it was when that property came into the city as a park, looking, doing research on that. Bill Gigray, it's actually the father of one of our firefighters, was a member of that, so we've reached out to him. He lives in California now, but we have reached out to him to see his recollection on that agreement, so they were looking into that. There was some mention of some things, potential dumping sites out there, so we're looking into that as well. So doing the research on that, but we could definitely have Steve Jenkins come and do a, kind of like we had Rob do tonight, do kind of an update on that, kind of let us know where everything's at, but they're still moving forward, looking at those sites in that regards, and I know the focus has kind of shifted to the other area, but just kind of jumping the hurdles now and getting the information from that.
Fair enough. And then also, as you're probably aware, I sent another email to council about spending within the budget. Mm-hmm. This is the third council meeting now. I'm bringing this up, that we need to be more attentive to that the city is not an open checkbook like a private company, and so we are spending taxpayers' dollars, and I think I asked you last time what your policy was on that, but it seems to be bleeding over into other things just besides, spending it on meals and coffee, and so I'd like you to take a stronger stance on that and determine what that should be and what items should be spent on. I certainly don't think we should be spending items on private events in any manner of the two I listed, whether, though babies are very nice and birthdays are very nice, but it is taxpayers' dollars, so we need to study that with each purchase that we do and direct that forward. So I'd appreciate a little bit more attention to that as well.
Yeah, thank you for highlighting that, and I have reached out to all the department heads in regards to those concerns and issues, so to make sure they were aware of it. So, yep. Councilor Stanek? Do you mind pushing your button real quick to make sure people hear it at home? Thank you.
At the last meeting, I requested code enforcement to look into the property on South Indiana and Ustick. The kochia weeds are higher than my pickup truck is, and when we demand our taxpayers to make sure they keep their lot's in good condition and we let something like this go. Is there any way that, I mean, can the city go in there and chop those down with a flail mower and charge whoever owns that property, or can we do that, or to get it fixed, or how are we gonna fix it?
Yeah, so, and Morgan's here, she can add to this. So just to make sure, so I'm looking at the intersection right here, which corner specifically
Yeah,
is it?
it's west of South Indiana and south of Ustick.
Okay, on that, so, south of Ustick, so it would be like right across from the New Sisters Park, is that correct?
Good. Yeah.
Or across from the charter school?
Charter school.
Oh, charter school,
Yeah.
okay, on that side, so on the west side of Indiana.
Yep.
Okay, so there is a process that the P&Z does have to go through, so they do have to allow the property owner the ability to correct that, so they'll send a letter out of notification that they're out of compliance, they have to give them so many days, and if they don't comply, then they can abate the property, and then a lien basically happens onto the property for that. And I'm not sure, Robin, do you know where that's at in that process or anything of that nature?
Morgan Bisa, Planning and Zoning. I would need a little bit of time to research this particular parcel. It had not been brought to my attention, but we do have code enforcement staff that follows this process every day, making sure that weeds are abated and addressed quickly.
Very good. Do you mind following up on that? Maybe reach out to Councilor Stoddard and give him an update this week?
Absolutely happy to.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Appreciate that. The other thing I'd like to do is to thank Chief Ingram and Deputy Chief Sopiago on helping us out at the Caldwell Veterans Center. We've been wanting a police officer on our board. We have a good relationship with our police department. A lot of things that do develop on that board where we get veterans in that need help, and instead of putting them in jail, we call the police department, or they call us, and we try and get them up to Boise to get them taken care of without putting them in jail. And now that we have a police officer on our board, or will have at our next meeting, anyway, we appreciate the cooperation, Chief, that you gave us on that, so we can get that done, and I think everything will work a lot smoother, so we appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
I had one more to add, but I
Yeah.
imagine you're going to mention it about Alyssa, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'll let you have that.
Awesome, thank you. Councilor Register.
The only thing that I have to say is to the people who still have concerns about parking is to come to that parking workshop, please. Whether you are in favor of the parking meters, if you're against the parking meters, I'm also trying to gather as much information as I can from the city, so we're working on that, and hopefully by that meeting, I'll have some more information for you. So I really hope that you guys come to that and that you're heard, and that we can come to some kind of resolution now. But I think it's also important to note that the vote on whether or not to renew the contract doesn't come up till October. So even though I have not been a huge proponent of the meters, I think we have to be responsible about what we're doing because we don't want to walk into a lawsuit. So if we can make some changes for a couple of months and then maybe look at what to do after that as far as parking enforcement. But I just encourage you all to come, and thank you for bringing the information that you did. I think this is a great for us to have.
Thank you so much. Councilor Williams.
Mr. Mayor, seems like something important is coming up next week, but I can't quite put my finger on it. The rodeo? Oh, that's what it is, the rodeo.
There you go.
100-year rodeo is next week, and I'm sure we're all looking forward to that. But other than that, I have nothing tonight, Mr. Mayor.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Council, and we don't have to worry about not being there on Tuesday night, so, but, because we'll be doing this Monday. So Councilor Allgood.
Yeah, I want to add just a little bit to Councilor Register's statement on the parking. I'm aware that we have a list of items that we're going to discuss individually, and I would really love if that list was as published as early as possible so that people in the community could see the items that were, and I would like one as well, so that I can prepare, because again, I know we're going to discuss a number of items individually on these meters, not as a whole, which I think is a wonderful idea, and I would just like that list to get out just as quickly as we can. And then the second thing is, I thank Mr. Porter for speaking up for Adam Garcia, and I 100% agree with what he said.
Good, awesome. Thank you so much, and thank you for that suggestion. We'll work on that and get that agenda done very, very soon so we can get that out on that. Okay, Councilor Dittenber.
A couple different things I wanted to chat about, and maybe much of this is old news or water under the bridge, but we just got done with our budget hearings. And one of the things that that doesn't escape me is the fact that last year there was a huge incursion of money into the budget. And combine that with the fact that this year we lost a lot of ARPA money, there's a lot of odd budget stuff. And one of the things I would like the city to do, and not to really need to do a great job and not to give you more work, because I always ask you how you're handling it and you say barely, right? I would like to see whether or not there's some sort of a road marker along the way where we can say we're a quarter into our budget and we're a quarter spent, or we're halfway into our budget and we're halfway spent, rather than getting to a point where if I understand correctly, we're going to look at a budget amendment here soon, where we can kind of keep an eye on the way the city spending is happening, on a month-to-month or a quarter-by-quarter basis, rather than coming in at the end and finding out we missed the mark. The second thing is with regard to the swimming pool. This is just a general observation. I drive by it every day, and wasn't it supposed to be open this month?
I'm looking at Mr. McDonald. So it should be open by May of next year.
I know, but wasn't the original date to have it open by the 1st of August?
So that was, well, I hate to, it was well before that, actually, if we go back. And I know came before, I can't remember when that was, how long ago it was, of the decision of do we push forward to try to get it open by August, knowing that we would open it for less than a month. You'd have the cost of the startup chemicals, trying to hire staff for 2 weeks for that. So it was determined, rather than trying to push to get it open in August, to just not have it open this year and then have the shoot for that date of May of next year.
So I'm aware of of that conversation. I also know that it costs money to have people on site every day, and I would suspect it's $5,000, $7,000 a day to have people on site at the swimming pool. And if we're not done now, that we're probably incurring more costs. So I'm just pointing that out, that we're behind schedule again.
No. We could do an update with that one as well. Would probably be good. So what we could do is we'll do an update with the amphitheater and then also with the swimming pool. So we'll do that in the coming up city council meeting. Anything else? No? Okay. Very good. So yes, and thank you for that with Alyssa Mendoza. So make sure everybody is aware. So Alyssa Mendoza is a Caldwell native, graduate of Middleton High School. It was so fun to get to watch her box in the Olympics and to see the crowd that came out and just got bigger the second time. She won her first match. Again, she is the youngest boxer on the Team USA boxing. And she won her first bout, split decision, 3-2. Very exciting to watch. I had no idea how the pointing was going on, the points, so I did not know whose hand was going to get raised until it did, so that was a really exciting thing. I know that her family appreciates so much the support, the outpouring of just love and admiration for her and her family. It's easy to talk the talk, but we definitely walk the walk, and they notice that, and so they've reached out and said thank you so much for all that support. Appreciate Char Jackson, who's here in the room. I should invite her to come forward and speak. She loves to do that so much in public. But she has really been a big, you can stay there, I'm just kidding, you don't have to come forward. But she's been huge in helping to make sure the word gets out so we can get those big crowds out there to show that support, and also pushing to make sure we do a special thing for her when she gets back. She'll be returning after the Olympics end this Sunday. And so we are going to be having a parade August 16th, so get that on your calendars. It'll be short and sweet, starting at Fire Station 1, going down to 5th, hanging a right, going by the police station, another quick right up to Indian Creek Steakhouse on that. So it'll be fun to kind of recognize her. Char will be busily cutting up pieces of paper for a ticker tape parade on that. But yeah, very excited to recognize her and her achievements. And we look forward to doing it again in 4 years with Los Angeles. So, but congratulations, Alyssa, and your family. I know it takes a village to get something like that done, and she'd be the first to admit that. She's a very humble, wonderful young lady. Then also, Caldwell Night Rodeo, as you mentioned, very excited, the 100-year anniversary that is coming up next week. Just been a lot of fun. We've had a little contest here. The city, the chamber has done their cutout boots where each business can buy a boot and then decorate that for a contest to see whose is the best. We did kind of a contest within the contest here at the city. So we have each building has their own boot, including each of the fire stations, to decorate it how they will and to submit those pictures. And it's been really fun to see everybody get into the spirit on that. There's been some amazing, it's going to be a tough decision because there's some really, really cool boots. So we'll make sure that we get those pictures sent out to all the council as well so you can see the great job that all the different departments have done in decorating their boots. So we're super excited for that. That's all the comments I have for this evening. But we do have an executive session. Do we have a motion to go to an executive session?
Mr. Mayor.
Councilor Doty.
I move to convene into executive session pursuant to Idaho Code Section 74206, subsection 1F, for the purpose of discussing pending litigation or where there is general public awareness of probable litigation, and subsection 1B for the purpose of discussing the evaluation, dismissal, or disciplining of, or to hear complaints or charges brought against a public officer, employee, staff member, or individual agent.
Thank you so much. Do we have a second?
Second.
So we have a motion from Councilor Doty and a second from Councilor Denberg to go into executive session for the details as listed in the motion. Any discussion? Okay, with that, the voting is open. And all votes are cast, so voting is closed, and that passes unanimously. So that does move us into executive session. So we would dismiss everyone in the audience. Thank you for coming and being here this evening with us. And we will be back for a regular scheduled city council meeting August 19th, a special city council meeting on August 20th for the budget, and August 26th, the special city council meeting to receive public comment concerning downtown parking.